right, let's make sure we can see that. All right, are you seeing stuff on your side?
But who said I was making out so good? Other than me.
Dude, relax.
We are live on YouTube.
Why is the board on?
Just turn the power button on.
There's nobody in there. Yeah, more drama.
No, that is not no.
Yeah, no.
That is not gonna get it. We're not looking for those kind of views, guys.
We might get banned.
No, not right now. Okay. So to start our lesson today, in your book, you need to be on page 20. Okay, it's gonna have this picture on it. Okay. There's plenty of books on other tables as well. All right, and then you're going to want to find the section in your journal that says post-Reconstruction and the Jim Crow law. Okay, and that should have, that's going to have a picture of W.E.B. Du Bois. Okay, but it's got a picture of him on it. You should see it. Make sure you're opened up to the intro. Okay, so why are we not working? There we go. Okay, hey, swipe me back to, you're going to want to go to the right. Keep going.
Wait, right or left?
Go to the right. Whoa. You're going to the left. I need you to swipe to the right. Swipe to the right. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Right there. Whoa. Now you can swipe. There you go.
He said left, so I thought I don't know.
Okay, so what? Oh, it's my fault. It's my fault. Okay. All right, let's see. Mar. Okay. I know she just went home sick or is working on it. Has anybody talked to our other friend?
Naomi, no. She was talking about that stuff.
Has anybody heard from Ethan? Not feeling well? Okay, so here we go. We are starting our second chapter in book 1. Okay, the whole book is called A Nation in Conflict, which means chapter 1 was about our conflict with Native Americans. So chapter 2 is going to be our conflict with Native American or with African Americans. All right. So your chapter is called Post-Reconstruction in the Jim Crow Era. Okay, post-Reconstruction means after Reconstruction. And of course, we talked about and ended 7th grade year with Reconstruction. So we did. Okay, Reconstruction after the Civil War. We started to rebuild. Okay, we had an entire section on African American politics. We touched a few times on what could be considered like pre-KKK organizations. And so now we're really going to dive into what this looks like and what it ends up turning into in this section. So your first page in your intro, it has your framing question. And that framing question is, how did African Americans navigate the challenges of the post-Reconstruction era, and what methods did they use to fight for civil rights? Okay. Now, you might actually know an answer to this because we did talk about some of this. Did you get your schedule changed? Never mind. Okay. That was wild. Okay. So you guys need to go ahead at your table. You guys are going to be talking about how are African Americans going to navigate these challenges? Okay. What kind of things are they going to?
All basketball girls
can head to the gym at this time. I'm supposed to need you in the gym.
Wait, can I be a swipe friend? No.
Okay.
I haven't been.
Hey guys, just make sure you watch the live. Okay. Hey, that's on you if you miss it. It's not on me. You don't watch it if you don't want to. Go. All right. That is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. Okay. So I want you guys to decide, how are they navigating these challenges? What are they going to do? What methods do you think that they're going to use to fight for civil rights? So go ahead and start thinking about that. You may work together. I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to write an answer on that.
They use peace protest.
I'm gonna be talking to Ghost, I guess.
Protest and peace
Wait, what was the question I was supposed to be?
and they navigated by saying
I guess I gotta get out the weed board.
It's that I'm ready to be educated.
Yes.
Could it be that maybe the question you're supposed to answer is on the board and on the first page of the chapter? And maybe it's also on the first page of the historical journal. Look, I don't know. I might be wrong.
Technically, it's not on the first page of the historical journal. It's on the.
I said on the first page of the chapter we're working on, Parker.
You said the first
I didn't realize.
I said on the first page of the chapter we're working on in the historical journal.
She said all she said was.
See, the thing about it is you were talking at the same time. But instead of talking at the same time that I am, maybe you could be writing.
She's trying to guess.
Okay. What do we do with it?
I'm never wrong.
That's a lie.
No, never.
Name one time.
Exactly. Thank you, Mar. I appreciate the backup.
God.
When you just said that you're never wrong.
I'm not. I'm the smartest person in this room. Well, Miss Parker, she
Miss Parker,
takes some pretty awesome college classes that I have no interest in learning
Yeah,
about.
So you're wrong right there.
Okay. Listen, if we're talking about macro and microeconomics and all this stuff, okay,
Oh,
that's the worst part I did on my praxis test.
Those are my favorite classes. I finished that semester with
No,
it.
what do you think the answer is?
Oh, yeah.
The right one.
Mm-hmm. A short one.
3 days.
Right, okay.
Yeah, you guys make us mad, so we have to get out of here. Okay, So- you guys must be done with this.
Hey, I'm not hostile. Can you just listen to me for a second?
Yes.
Fine. I mean, I just need to make sure somebody's in charge.
Yes, absolutely. All right, now I want you guys to take a look at the vocab words that are at the bottom of this page. So your vocab words for this section are, number 1, political disenfranchisement. Woo, isn't that one fancy? Political disenfranchisement. Does anybody, without looking at the book, okay, do anybody know what that means? Okay.
They make political decisions.
Huh?
They make the political
Okay, it definitely has something to do with politics, right? Obviously, or it wouldn't say political on it, okay? What is an accommodationist?
They make accommodations for people.
What does that mean?
Special things. They get special things.
Making special things
Yeah.
for people?
Yeah.
Making accommodations? What is an accommodation?
Like,
In the easy way out.
An easy way out?
Yeah. Like if I had
Um,
an accommodation to be late for class, that's the easy way out of getting hurt.
what?
Okay,
Well, you see,
all right. It's an interesting way of thinking about it, all right? All right, how about the word lynching?
Well, I know what you is.
What is lynching?
It's like when they hang black person,
Okay, all right.
right?
I'm going to not tell you if you're right or wrong on anything until we get there. We're going to see if you guys were right. Okay, what about a suffragist? A suffragist. What is a suffragist?
they make people suffer.
Dude.
Okay. We got one side of the spectrum and the other. Okay. Somebody who is making people suffer and another one who advocates. So,
I think my philosophy.
okay. All right. So these are the 4 vocabs that we are going to go through this chapter. So you only have 4. You guys only had 4 last time, I think, too, right? So on the grand scheme of vocab, you guys are doing pretty well. All right. So our first section is, you can swipe for me, please. Our first section is a mini section. Okay, so there is no guided question. It is called Hope to Hardship. So obviously we're going to talk about something is very good and it's going to move down to something that's pretty bad. Okay, so it's a mini section here because it's a very small area. We're going to try and maybe give you a little bit more information. Okay, the picture in the middle of your book is a art print that is celebrating the 15th Amendment. And that 15th Amendment says you cannot judge somebody based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. You cannot block them from voting. All right. So that means if they condition of servitude means were they a slave? If they were, you cannot tell them no, they cannot vote. Okay. So that is our 15th Amendment. So let's step back for a minute. Immediately following the Civil War, the United States begins to rebuild, and they try to mend that division that this conflict has caused. That division of North versus South, Union versus Confederate, okay, slave owner versus non-slave owner. And that whole time period is called Reconstruction because we're trying to rebuild that. Do you guys remember talking about this?
I do.
Good. Okay. That doesn't surprise me. Okay.
Why does that surprise me? Why? I'm like, so
I think you were too busy looking for love.
No, I will scout up.
Looking for love in all the wrong places. Okay. So, for many, it was a time of hope and optimism as formerly enslaved persons were granted rights and citizenships under the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. So, I want you guys to think back last year. There was a whole section that we had where we were talking about all of the African Americans who had made it to political positions. So we had our first African American governor of Louisiana. We had senators. We had a lieutenant governor. We had a lot of African Americans who were gaining power. All right. They were getting elected into positions. Why? Because they had support not only from the people who were abolitionists, but of course, African Americans have the first time to vote. And of course, they're going to vote for somebody who looks like them and has been through the struggles. So that is no surprise that we do see that. But all of a sudden, that is going to change. It is going to decline. These promises of equality and freedom during Reconstruction are going to be short-lived. It is going to end up turning very tumultuous, and there is going to be some very uncertain times, especially in the South. Now, we are going to talk a lot about issues in the South, but I am going to make sure that you guys know that these issues are not just contained in the South. Racism was not just in, North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas, Florida. Okay. It is very well all throughout the United States. Now, the North might have been not as violent about the way that they showed their racism, but it was still present. The post-Reconstruction era was soon marked by racial injustices and the rise of segregation policies. And these segregation policies are known as the Jim Crow laws. Okay? The Jim Crow laws. So, answer this question at your table. Why does the United States begin a period of rebuilding in 1865? Why are we rebuilding?
Because slavery is bad.
Well, then think about it in your mind. Wait, you answer it.
Wait, what maybe not
So,
really on?
hope to hardship. Because slavery is bad. That sounds really basic. That's super basic. Jeez. Lost these. Oh.
Pretty much, right? Okay, we don't have a guiding question for this section because it is a mini section. So we can go ahead and swipe to the next one. Okay, section 2 is called Unraveling Threads and Jim Crow Laws. Unraveling Threads and Jim Crow Laws. All right, so it says, as you may have learned, the Compromise of 1877 marked the end of Reconstruction. You may not have learned that or remember it. So just so you know, the Compromise of 1877 marks the ends of Reconstruction. Much of the progress of Reconstruction era's policies that were designed to help African Americans after the Civil War was reversed due to racial discrimination. And here is our first vocabulary word: political disenfranchisement. Political disenfranchisement means to take away the right to vote. Okay? African Americans were dealing with political disenfranchisement tactics. So what that means is, let me move this for a second, and hopefully we can see this. Okay, so here's our Jim Crow laws up here. So we're going to get poll taxes. Does anybody know what a poll tax is? Anybody want to guess? It is a tax on polls. What kind of polls?
Oh, is it like those little the roads where they block it off?
No, that's a turnpike.
Isn't we wrote about those last year.
Wow. Good job. Okay, what?
Is it when you have to pay the vote?
Yes, you have to pay to vote. Okay? So poll tax, you have to pay to vote. What do we think is a literacy test?
Writing,
Test to see if you know how to read. Okay? So there are other different types of tests, but we're going to focus on these two real quick. Okay, a poll tax. So a lot of southern states decided that they were going to start to charge a poll tax, which means that this is money you have to pay before you are able to vote. A lot of times it wasn't just like, hey, it's going to cost you $5 to vote this year. Sometimes they would make it to where you had to pay 3 years in advance. Okay? Now, I'm going to put it to you guys this way. All right? Let's say that I was going to offer extra credit to the class. Right?
I'm listening.
But to be eligible to earn that extra credit, you had to pay me $1.
Ah, shucks. Oh, I got it in my pocket.
I'll do it.
Okay? So everyone right now, right? You guys are like, hey, I will do, yeah, absolutely. I will pay $1 for me to have a chance to have extra credit. Okay? First of all, just because we are recording this on YouTube, I am not ever asking for money for extra credit. Okay? But, okay? No. Okay. So now, if I knew that every Black child in this class could not afford, hold on, listen to me. If I knew that you guys could not afford $1 and me putting that in there, is that me being racist?
Kind of, sort of.
Because I'm literally at that point only offering extra credit to the white folks, right? Because I knew that the Black kids could not purchase it, right? So, but if I put that out there, is that technically me stopping you from voting because of the color of your skin?
I don't know how much melanin I have. Maybe a lot.
Not technically.
Will you
Okay.
fix mine?
Not technically. Okay? That is how they got around it. Because technically they said, well, listen, we're going to charge $1, but actually it's $3 so you can be eligible for the next 3 years. And you do have to pay up front, but even white people who can't pay for it, they can't vote. Okay. Well, at this time, economically speaking, African Americans were at a lower point. Okay. They were just coming out of slavery. They were just starting their lives. Some of them were the tenant farmers. Okay. Or they're renting lands and stuff. They are not at the position where they can pay $3. Okay. Which granted, you guys are thinking $3 right now. That's not a lot of money. It was a lot of money back then. All right. Well, then let's say you could. It was funny. And earlier today, Cortavian goes, I got $1. I go, okay, let's use you for example. Okay. Okay. Cortavian has $1. So he says, huh?
Here, you have $1 right here.
He said he has $1. And I was like, okay, let's say that you are one of the students that can buy it. Okay. The next thing I'm going to tell you is, well, I need you to read and then explain to me in its entirety the first section of the Constitution. Okay. That's our literacy test. Guys, he wasn't just saying, hey, read this article or this newspaper thing, right? They were pulling passages of law and asking African Americans, well, they were asking everybody, can you read this and explain this? Well, African Americans, when they were slaves, were they taught in schools?
No.
Okay. Could most of them read?
No.
No. So, okay. If you are African American, and let's say you can pay the poll tax, yeah, but can you read?
Oh, yeah, I can read.
So at this point, okay, they are disenfranchising, they're taking away the vote of African Americans if they can't pay and if they can't read. Now, the next question is, well, what about a white person? What if a white person can't read? What if they don't have money? Because there was definitely some of those back then. Okay, did they not get to vote? Oh, no. They made a deal. They said, you know what? We're gonna make you a deal. If you can't pay the poll tax and you can't read, well, how about this? Answer this easy question. Was your grandpa a free man before the Civil War? Well, anybody know of any plantation that had a whole bunch of white people as slaves? I don't know any of them. So was every white person's grandfather free before the Civil War? Guess what? So then they didn't have to pay the poll tax. They didn't have to do the literacy tax test. They could just go ahead and vote. Okay? So that's how they were able to disenfranchise, or they were able to take away the vote from so many African Americans, because these laws were technically not racist. Everybody had to follow them. So if you were one of the lucky African Americans whose grandfather was free, yes, you could pass on that. Okay? But it was a smaller percentage. Okay? We also had violent groups, and we talked about these last year, called the Red Shirts, which were basically a type of what we would refer to as the KKK. They were racist. We talked about 2 situations last year, 2 of them in Louisiana, where there was some riots over African Americans voting. And that was a lot to do with the Red Shirts. Okay. As the violence escalates, the number of African Americans elected to the government would decline, as would be candidates would choose not to run for fear of their safety or their family. So African Americans stopped being candidates. They stopped running because there was too many threats against them. But also at the same time, if you make everybody who would vote for you not be able to vote for you, are you going to make it in? You're not. You're not going to be elected. So many African Americans who were elected before, unfortunately, lost their positions because they couldn't gain re-election. Then our Jim Crow laws start bringing up segregation. What is segregation?
Like
Separating.
restaurants and all like black people.
Separating. Okay, they're separating, yes. And we're going to talk about that more. All right. So they're going to segregate black and whites, okay, which is taking away a lot of opportunities. So these Jim Crow laws are making schools, restaurants, theaters, drinking fountains separate. Okay? If you were an African American, you are not drinking out of the same drinking fountain as a white person. It was not happening. If you wanted to go to school, you were going to go to a black school. Sitting in this classroom as it is right now would not be allowed. Okay? Restaurants. Okay? If a restaurant couldn't necessarily ban you completely, however, what they would do is instead they would section off their restaurant and make you go through the back door if you were an African American. The tables that you were sitting at, the plates that you were eating off of, the glasses that you were drinking out of were not as nice as what was offered to the whites. Okay? This ends up becoming incredibly humiliating. it becomes incredibly humiliating. Then we get a court case, a Supreme Court case. And guys, I am going to ask you about this court case more than once throughout history. Okay? And it is this one right here. It is a court case from 1896. It is called Plessy, Plessy versus Ferguson. Plessy versus Ferguson. And I will ask you it multiple times. I will go, hey, what was that court case that happened in New Orleans? Okay? What?
So like, who thought slavery was like good? Like, the first person thought that slavery was
The first person who thought slavery was good? We are going back about 10,000 BC. Maybe even more than that.
I thought it was like.
We learned about that last year. That was a lot.
No, world history. I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. That's how long slavery's been around. Okay? You go and conquer your neighbor and you take their people and you make them slaves. That's world history for ever since we've known it. Oh yeah. I wish I could tell you it was one person's fault, but it's just not. It's just evil. It's just evil and power, really. Okay. So in 1896, we have a case called Plessy and Ferguson that goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. And this case comes down and says segregation is legal. You are allowed to keep blacks in a separate room than whites. You can keep it as long as, there's a caveat, that it is separate but equal. Okay? Now, when I think equal, I think this is the exact same, right? Because 3 equals 3. Okay? It should be the same. So if I'm looking at a restaurant and I have to segregate this restaurant and I have to put a wall straight down the middle of this, then the table should be the same. The chairs should be the same. The dishes should be the same. All of that, right? If we're going to do separate but equal, it's got to be the same. But the difference is that didn't actually work. What it was, well, here's a table on the nice side. Yeah, there's a table here. Yeah, there's chairs. Yeah, it wasn't equal necessarily in monetary value. Okay, so if we were going to say we're going to have water fountains that are different, well, African Americans would get the old water fountain and then we put a new one in for whites. So almost everything that African Americans were getting was inferior or worth less than the stuff that the white people were getting. So in Louisiana, okay, in 1890, they passed a law that says we are now requiring separate train cars. Okay? Separate train cars. One train is going to be for whites, one's going to be for blacks. Who's been to New Orleans before?
Me.
Okay. Have you been on Canal Street? Canal is the double street. It's got palm trees that go down it. And then right in the middle of the palm trees, there is a type of transportation that goes in the middle. What is it? Hi, Sean. Huh? It's not a bus. It's like a trolley, like a train.
Yeah.
Okay. You can kind of hop on. They go all over the place and pick people up.
Technically, it's a bus. Technically, it's a train. And technically, it's both.
Okay. So these trains had to be the same. Okay. So there is a gentleman by the name of Homer. Homer
Simpson?
Plessy. I know, right? Homer Plessy. Now, Homer is a resident of New Orleans, and he is technically mixed. Okay? He is technically mixed, and he decides he is going to sit in the white car going through New Orleans. He is arrested and charged with not following the law. Now, here's a little caveat that your book doesn't tell you, is that for a very long time, Plessy would ride in the white car without any issues because Plessy was like 1/8 black. Okay? So he was completely passing, okay, for a white person. But the problem is segregation was so bad that according to many white people in power, it didn't matter what your fraction was. If you had a drop, of African American blood in you. You are black and were not worthy to sit in the white section. So that means even like 1/64th, right? Your DNA is 1% black. Okay. Now, did we have DNA tests back then? No. Okay. We did not have DNA tests back then. Okay. But Plessy was not just, it wasn't like he is just a very dark-skinned man getting on this white train. He had ridden on the white train a few times, but this time he got caught. Okay. In court, his lawyer argued that the Louisiana law that requires separate but equal is actually unconstitutional. And that judge was a guy by the name of John Ferguson. So we have Homer Plessy and John Ferguson. Okay. So the case becomes known as Plessy versus Ferguson, and it goes to the Supreme Court. A majority of justices declared that Louisiana's segregation law and others like it are constitutional as long as the facilities were equal. So to me, that means if the white car has purple velvet carpet and blue silk curtains, that should be also the same in the black car, right? If it's going to be separate but equal. And a lot of people are going to argue that that's not true. It says, they said that if the civil and political rights of both races can be equal, one cannot be inferior to the other civilly or politically. If one race be inferior to the other socially, the Constitution of the United States cannot put them up on the same plane. Okay, what it means is that your civil rights are equal. You have the same rights. Political rights, they're equal. And if that's the case, then politically, one is not more important than the other. Okay? This decision ensured the continuation of Jim Crow by reinforcing segregation, and then it continues to push the racial divide. In many parts of the United States, the practice of separate but equal would remain in effect until the 1950s. The consequences of the Jim Crow era were far-reaching. African Americans, particularly in the South, were subjected to discrimination and racism in nearly every part of their lives. Black schools often lacked resources, quality education, economic opportunities were limited, job descriptions left many trapped in low-paying jobs, and social interactions were strained, as interracial friendships and relationships were strictly discouraged by societal norms. Okay, so first of all, interracial relationships. Not going to happen. If you are a black man and you are dating a white woman, more than likely you are going to be arrested on the spot. Okay? They're going to come up with some false claims about what you may or may not be doing, and we will actually talk about one of those situations later on. You're gonna go to jail, and there's gonna be a problem. If you are a white man who is participating in a relationship with a black woman, more than likely you are going to be beaten. Your house will be burned down. Okay, your family will be attacked. Interracial marriages were not okay. There's actually, and it's set later because we're talking about 1870s and 80s. There is a movie, and I think it's based on a relationship out of South Carolina. It's called Is it Loved? You know which one I'm talking about?
What is it again?
It's the movie about.
Teachers, for an interruption. I need David Kendrick to check out. David Kendrick to check out.
And I think it's called Loved, but it is it's a story out of South Carolina. I think it's a white man who married a black woman when it was in that racially charged, like 1940s. And he got arrested and all that. I cannot remember the name of that movie.
I think I know which one you're talking about, but I can't remember the name of it either.
Can you Google it for me real quick? Okay. Guys, this movie is amazing. It is a great movie. It's not set in the 1870s. I think it's more along the 30s or the 40s. But it shows you what happens when an interracial marriage happens and the abuse and discrimination that happens upon their family. So once we know the name, I would highly suggest that is something that you want. Okay.
Loving.
Loving. That's what it's called, not loved. Loving. Very, very good. Watch the movie. Okay. I want you guys to flip back to page 23 to the map.
23.
Yep.
I got you.
23. 23.
Fantastic.
23. We have a map, and the map shows all of our southern states, and it shows what the population in 1880 was of whites versus blacks. Okay, let's take a look at Louisiana. 48.4% are white, while the population is 51.5 African American. So, in theory, if African Americans were not dealing with Jim Crow laws, is it easy to say that more than likely, if an African American candidate was running, the African American candidate would have been selected? If there was no Jim Crow laws? Yes, because there's a higher African American population.
I didn't hear that.
Okay, now that one's pretty close, but let's take a look at Mississippi.
That's a lot of black people.
Bro, chill out.
Yeah, chill out.
57.5% of the population is African American.
See?
So that's definitely a majority. But
That's a part of that.
take a look at South Carolina. What is the number on South Carolina?
South
Probably
Carolina.
just away.
Oh boy, 60.7.
60.7. Okay. So in South Carolina, if there was no Jim Crow laws, then you're talking about there's no chance, right? A white person is not going to win an election at all. Now, South Carolina is known to be the most, or has been known to be the most racist state. Mind you, they were the first one to secede when we had the Civil War. Okay. There was a lot more plantations in that area, more slaves. All right. So it does make sense that once all of these slaves are freed, that they are a larger population than the whites. Okay. So this tells you specifically how much the elections would have changed if African Americans had not their vote been taken away. Okay. So I want you guys to think about this. Again, this makes good answers, good notes. Why were African Americans still often unable to vote after Reconstruction? What was stopping them from being able to vote? Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Think about it. See if there's a place for it on your page. I already know the answer.
That's the part that's not my table.
Hmm?
That's the part that's not my table.
I mean, you can, but you also have to swipe.
I'll be sweating.
Swipe or no swipe?
Whoa, don't swipe yet.
Oh.
We still have another question to answer. Okay. According to the map on page 23, the one we were just discussing, what portion of the population in southern states, such as Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, and Mississippi, were African American?
A lot.
Okay. A lot is not the answer.
But tons and
Super a lot.
like a lot.
Okay, now you can swipe.
Swipe or no swipe?
Okay. What events lead to the Plessy versus Ferguson decision? What were those events? What happened?
Oh, I don't
Are you
know.
supposed to tell you?
No, I don't know. These are things for you to think about. Can you answer them with somebody at your table? I mean, I would appreciate if you answered them so Evelyn could stay awake, because maybe you should quiz her. I don't think she knows.
Pop quiz.
Okay, can you answer this? Yes? Okay. And then, how do you guys think? What you like? How do we think Plessy versus Ferguson affects race relations? Do we think this ends up being good for Black people and white people, or is it bad?
Absolutely not the same.
It's terrible.
It's so bad.
It's horrible.
Why are we splitting them up based on the color of their skin? How melanin they have in them? I'm not sure.
Uh-huh. need to come test my skin tone against your shirt.
I'll come to
See where I'm at on the scale.
Probably the second one. Probably like the first. Yeah, you're the first one.
I feel like I could get into the third a little bit. I think I might. Listen, yeah, I think I could.
No, you can't.
I think I'm right. I'm right in the middle. I'm way too dark for that. That I am darker.
Yeah,
But I'm
you
lighter
match
than
up
this
to
one.
this. You match
I
up-
do
you
not.
match up
My
to this.
palm. Look at that. That does, but not the rest of. You can't judge it on the lightest part of my skin.
What?
I'm just saying you're this light.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let's look at the lightest part of your skin on the shirt.
But-
Guess what? You be white too.
Hey, it's right there. Hey, it's right there. It's still darker than you.
All right. Go ahead and swipe. Ooh. All right, your guiding question for this section is, how did the end of Reconstruction lead to the growth of segregation and discrimination in the South?
Love Shark Tanks.
What?
No.
I'm glad you're done. Okay, so how does Reconstruction, the rebuilding, the trying to put back together, how does that actually grow segregation and discrimination in the South?
Can you help me?
And that is the end of our lesson today.
Wait, can you
All
help me out
right.
with that?
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that. Can you help me?
Hold on. So tomorrow we're gonna try and move a little bit faster. I'm gonna try and get through 3 sections tomorrow.
See, I think we can do 4.
No.
Okay. You wanna try it, Mar? I'm game.
I think we
Wait,
can
can
do
I
4
have
too.
a
Okay.
Wait, Miss
I'm
Bella-
game.
If they get left, it does Libra,
Miss
bro.
Bella, can
You
I
know what?
have a flavor
You're
tomorrow?
right. You know what? Because it's recorded, right? Go back and watch it again.
Miss Bella,
Okay.
tomorrow,
All right.
can I have a flavor tomorrow? That is so good today.
I don't know about that.